Martin Ellsworth, a strikingly handsome 55-year-old man, had built his empire in the world of real estate development. Known for his sharp business acumen and unyielding determination, Martin was a self-made billionaire who moved through life with the confidence of someone who always got what he wanted, whether in business or in his personal life. His reputation for ruthless decision-making in the boardroom was matched by his charm and generosity outside of it. Samantha Rivers, a beautiful 22-year-old aspiring actress with striking eyes and a captivating smile, seemed an unlikely match for the poised and polished Martin. Fresh out of a small-town college and new to the bustling city life, Samantha had drifted through a series of temporary jobs while trying to catch her big break in Hollywood. It was a chance encounter with Martin that changed the trajectory of her life. Their relationship, while unconventional, appeared to offer both parties what they desired. For Martin, Samantha was a vibrant young companion who added excitement to his life, while for Samantha, Martin provided financial security and a taste of the luxury she had always dreamed of. For nearly a year, their arrangement flourished in the shadows of Beverly Hills. However, as summer gave way to autumn, a shift in their delicate dynamics set in motion a chain of events that would end in bloodshed, leaving the community grappling with the dark undercurrents that had been flowing beneath its pristine surface all along. Martin Ellsworth's path to wealth and power began in the working-class neighborhoods of Chicago. Born to a factory worker and a homemaker, young Martin showed an early aptitude for business and an insatiable curiosity about the world of finance. His parents, recognizing his potential, worked tirelessly to provide him with every educational opportunity they could afford. At 18, Martin's life took a dramatic turn when he secured a scholarship to attend the prestigious Wharton School of Business. It was at Wharton that Martin's ambition truly took flight. He excelled in his studies, impressing his professors with his keen insights and relentless work ethic. During his senior year, Martin's research into urban redevelopment attracted the attention of several major real estate firms. By 30, he had founded his own company, Ellsworth Enterprises, and began transforming neglected urban areas into thriving commercial and residential hubs. Under Martin's leadership, the company flourished, its stock price soaring as his projects made headlines. With each success, Martin's wealth and influence grew, but so did his reputation for ruthlessness. Former colleagues spoke in hushed tones of his ability to charm and manipulate, to identify weaknesses and exploit them mercilessly. Martin's personal life was marked by a series of short-lived relationships, each ending as his partners found themselves unable to compete with his true passion, his work. After his third divorce at 50, from a younger model who claimed he had become obsessively controlling, Martin swore off traditional relationships. Instead, he began seeking the company of much younger women, drawn to their vitality and the uncomplicated nature of purely transactional arrangements. It was a lifestyle that suited him, allowing him to maintain control while satisfying his needs for companionship and physical intimacy. Yet, as Martin approached his mid-50s, a creeping sense of loneliness began to gnaw at him. This vulnerability, carefully hidden beneath his polished exterior, would leave him susceptible to the intoxicating allure of Samantha Rivers and the destructive jealousy that would follow. Samantha Rivers' early life stood in stark contrast to Martin's. Born in a small town in Ohio, she was the youngest of 3 children in a family perpetually teetering on the edge of poverty. Her father, a construction worker, was often away on jobs, while her mother, overwhelmed and battling health issues, struggled to keep the family afloat. From a young age, Samantha learned to fend for herself. Blessed with stunning looks and a natural charm, she discovered early on that these attributes could be leveraged to her advantage. By high school, Samantha had perfected the art of getting by with minimal effort, relying on her charisma to smooth over her academic shortcomings and disciplinary issues. Despite her lackluster academic performance, her talents in drama and theater were undeniable, earning her a scholarship to a small liberal arts college in Los Angeles. However, the freedom of college life proved too tempting for Samantha. Away from the watchful eyes of her family and high school teachers, she fell in with a party crowd. Her grades plummeted, and by the end of her freshman year, Samantha had lost her scholarship. Too ashamed to return home, she decided to stay in Los Angeles, bouncing between low-wage jobs and crashing on friends' couches. It was during this aimless period that Samantha's path intersected with Martin's. Working as a waitress in an upscale restaurant frequented by business executives, Samantha caught Martin's eye one rainy Tuesday evening. He was struck by her easy smile and the hint of vulnerability behind her confident demeanor. For Samantha, Martin represented everything she thought she wanted: sophistication, success, and the promise of a life far removed from her humble beginnings. Their initial flirtation quickly evolved into something more. Martin, intrigued by Samantha's raw potential and eager to shape her into his ideal companion, offered her a proposition. He would provide her with financial support and introduce her to his world of luxury and refinement in exchange for her exclusive companionship. Faced with mounting debts and dwindling prospects, the offer seemed too good to refuse. Seizing the opportunity, Samantha accepted Martin's invitation to attend a high-profile charity gala as his guest. The event marked the beginning of her induction into Martin's world. He arrived at her modest apartment, presenting her with a designer gown that fit her perfectly. As they moved through the event, Martin expertly guided Samantha, whispering explanations about the art and introducing her to his circles as his charming young companion. For Samantha, the evening was intoxicating. She found herself easily slipping into the role of the captivating young woman, feeding off the approving glances and engaging conversations with Martin's peers. As the night wore on, the attraction between them grew palpable, culminating in a passionate encounter back at Martin's penthouse. In the afterglow, Martin laid out his proposition. He would provide Samantha with a generous monthly allowance, pay for her acting classes, and introduce her to opportunities she could only dream of. In return, he expected her companionship, discretion, and exclusivity. Samantha, seeing a chance to reinvent herself and escape her directionless existence, agreed without hesitation. The following months were a whirlwind for Samantha. Martin moved her into a luxurious apartment in the heart of Beverly Hills, replacing her wardrobe with designer labels and introducing her to the finer things in life. He enrolled her in acting classes, hired a personal trainer to hone her already impressive physique, and taught her the nuances of high society living. Martin took immense pleasure in molding Samantha, viewing her as both a project and a prized possession. He reveled in the envious glances they received when they attended events together, proudly showing off his attractive young companion. For Samantha, the relationship offered security and excitement in equal measure. She threw herself into her new role with enthusiasm, eager to prove her worth and maintain the lifestyle to which she was quickly becoming accustomed. Their physical relationship was passionate and adventurous, with Martin introducing Samantha to experiences she had never imagined. He pushed her boundaries, always maintaining control, a dynamic that spilled over into other aspects of their relationship. As summer turned to fall, Martin and Samantha settled into a rhythm of lavish vacations, social events, and intimate evenings at home. To the outside world, they appeared to be an unconventional but happy couple. However, beneath the surface, the seeds of codependency and obsession were taking root, setting the stage for the turmoil that was to come. The delicate balance of Martin and Samantha's relationship began to shift with the arrival of Ethan Grant, a 25-year-old aspiring actor who attended the same acting classes as Samantha. Ethan entered their lives innocuously enough. Initially as a fellow student who shared Samantha's passion for theater and film, their friendship blossomed quickly, bonding over shared interests and the shared struggles of trying to make it in Hollywood. Martin first noticed Ethan during one of Samantha's acting showcases. While Samantha's performance captivated the audience, Martin's attention was drawn to the young man who seemed to command her attention and laughter so easily. Ethan, with his rugged good looks and charismatic presence, represented a stark contrast to Martin's polished sophistication. Where Martin was controlled and precise, Ethan was spontaneous and expressive. As Samantha spent more time with Ethan, Martin's jealousy began to fester. He noticed the subtle changes in her behavior, how her eyes would light up when she talked about her acting partner, the way she laughed more freely in his presence. Determined to uncover the truth, Martin began to monitor Samantha more closely. He installed a GPS tracker on her phone and hired a private investigator to follow her during her outings. The reports he received confirmed his worst fears. Samantha and Ethan were spending considerable time together outside of class, their body language indicating a clear attraction. As evidence of Samantha's growing connection with Ethan mounted, Martin's jealousy turned into an obsession. He became distracted during important meetings, snapping at employees for minor infractions. His assistant noticed an increase in his alcohol consumption, often finding empty whiskey bottles in his office trash. Unable to contain his suspicions any longer, Martin confronted Samantha after a particularly late night out. He demanded to know where she had been, accusing her of betraying his trust. Samantha, caught off guard, attempted to downplay her friendship with Ethan, insisting that Martin was overreacting. The argument escalated quickly, with Martin reminding Samantha of everything he had done for her and insinuating that she owed him her loyalty. This confrontation marked a turning point in their relationship. Samantha, feeling trapped and resentful of Martin's possessiveness, began to withdraw further. She became more guarded with her phone, careful not to mention Ethan, and invented elaborate excuses for her absences. Martin, driven by his growing paranoia, intensified his efforts to control Samantha. He insisted on accompanying her to acting events, his possessive body language sending a clear message to anyone who approached them. He surprised her with impromptu visits to her acting classes, his sharp eyes scanning for any sign of Ethan. During one of his clandestine investigations into Samantha's past, Martin uncovered a secret that he believed would give him the ultimate leverage. Through his network of private investigators, he learned that Samantha had been involved in a scandal during her freshman year of college, a scandal that had resulted in her losing her scholarship. The details were murky, but it involved a hazing incident that had gone horribly wrong, leaving another student seriously injured. Samantha had fled the scene, and while the case had gone cold due to lack of evidence, Martin now held the missing pieces. Armed with this explosive information, Martin carefully planned his approach. He waited for a moment when Samantha was particularly vulnerable, after a heated argument about her increasing absences. As Samantha turned to leave, Martin calmly mentioned the incident. The color drained from her face as she slowly turned back to him. Martin laid out the facts with cold precision, producing police reports and witness statements. He made it clear that he possessed enough evidence to reopen the case and implicate her. The unspoken threat hung heavy in the air. If Samantha didn't comply with his wishes, he would turn the information over to the authorities. The revelation shattered Samantha. The incident had been the catalyst for her downward spiral, the guilt eating away at her for years. She had convinced herself that by leaving her old life behind, she could escape her past. Now, that illusion was cruelly stripped away. Trapped and desperate, Samantha initially agreed to Martin's demands. She stopped visiting her acting classes, ignored Ethan's increasingly worried messages, and became a virtual prisoner in Martin's gilded cage. Martin reveled in his victory, believing he had finally secured Samantha's unwavering loyalty. However, The weight of the blackmail soon began to take its toll on both of them. Samantha became withdrawn and depressed, her once vibrant personality dulled by the constant stress of living under threat. She went through the motions of their relationship, but the spark that had initially drawn Martin to her was extinguished. Martin, for his part, found that his victory left him feeling hollow. The passionate, challenging young woman he had fallen for was replaced by a submissive shell. He vacillated between guilt over his actions and frustration at Samantha's listlessness. As weeks passed, the tension in the household became unbearable. Samantha's resentment simmered just below the surface, while Martin's paranoia grew. He became convinced that Samantha was plotting against him, looking for a way to neutralize his leverage. The situation was untenable, a powder keg waiting for a spark. That spark came one crisp autumn evening. Martin had dragged Samantha to a high-profile charity gala, parading her before his peers like a prized possession. As they moved through the crowd, Samantha's eyes locked with a familiar face across the room. It was Ethan, looking striking in a tailored suit, his presence a stark reminder of the freedom and genuine connection she had lost. Before Martin could react, Samantha mumbled an excuse and fled the gala. She found herself wandering the streets, her mind racing. The chance encounter with Ethan had awakened something in her, a fierce desire for freedom, a reminder of the person she once was and could be again. When Samantha finally returned to the estate in the early hours of the morning, she found Martin waiting for her, his face a mask of cold fury. The argument that ensued was unlike any they had before. Samantha, emboldened by her realization and no longer willing to be controlled, confronted Martin about his manipulation and blackmail. Martin, sensing he was losing his grip on Samantha, resorted to his final play. He reminded her of the evidence he held, threatening not only to expose her past, but to use his influence to destroy any future she might hope to have. He painted a vivid picture of the ruin that awaited her if she dared to leave him. But instead of cowing Samantha, his threats only served to strengthen her resolve. In a moment of clarity, she realized that no future with Martin, no matter how luxurious, was worth the price of her soul. With a calmness that belied the turmoil within her, Samantha told Martin that she was leaving, regardless of the consequences. Martin, faced with the reality of losing Samantha despite his best efforts, snapped. What happened next would shock the community and change both their lives forever. As Samantha turned to leave, Martin's composure shattered completely. With a primal scream of rage and desperation, he lunged at her. Samantha, caught off guard by the sudden violence, stumbled backward, knocking over an antique vase that shattered on the marble floor. The sound of breaking porcelain seemed to push Martin further into a frenzy. He grabbed a heavy crystal decanter from the bar cart and swung it at Samantha's head. She ducked, the decanter missing her by inches and smashing against the wall, showering them both with glass and expensive scotch. Samantha, realizing the gravity of the situation, tried to restrain Martin, pleading with him to calm down. But Martin was beyond reason. He clawed at her, kicking and screaming incoherently about betrayal and ingratitude. In the struggle, they careened into Martin's prized art collection, paintings crashing to the floor around them. As they grappled, Martin's hand closed around a letter opener on his desk, a wicked, ornate thing that was more weapon than office tool. He plunged it toward Samantha's chest. She managed to deflect the blow, but the blade sliced deeply into her arm, drawing a spray of blood. The sight of blood seemed to momentarily snap Martin back to reality. He staggered back, the letter opener falling from his suddenly nerveless fingers. Samantha, clutching her bleeding arm, saw an opportunity to escape and made a dash for the door. But Martin, in a final desperate act, grabbed her injured arm, yanking her back with surprising strength. Samantha, acting on pure instinct and adrenaline, shoved him away hard. Martin stumbled backward, his heel catching on the rug. Time seemed to slow as he fell, his head striking the corner of the heavy marble fireplace with a sickening crack. Martin crumpled to the floor, a pool of blood quickly spreading beneath his hair. Samantha stood frozen, her mind struggling to process what had just happened. The room, so recently a scene of chaos, was suddenly terribly still. With trembling hands, Samantha checked for a pulse, finding none. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Martin was dead, and her life as she knew it was over. In a daze, she stumbled out of the house into the cool night air, leaving behind a scene of destruction that would soon become the center of a sensational investigation. The grisly discovery was made by Martin's housekeeper, Elena Ramirez, early the next morning. Her screams upon finding her employer's lifeless body shattered the tranquil morning silence of Beverly Hills, bringing neighbors running and prompting a flurry of calls to 911. Detective Lydia Blackwell, a veteran of the Beverly Hills Police Department's Homicide Division, arrived at the scene within the hour. The opulent living room, now a tableau of violence, told a story of a fierce struggle. Broken glass crunched under her feet as she made her initial survey, noting the overturned furniture, shattered artifacts, and the smears of blood that led to Martin's body by the fireplace. As crime scene technicians swarmed the house, Detective Blackwell began piecing together the events of the previous night. Security camera footage showed Samantha fleeing the premises in the early hours of the morning, her shirt stained with blood. Her swift disappearance made her the prime suspect, and an all-points bulletin was issued for her arrest. As the investigation progressed, a more complex picture began to emerge. Interviews with staff and acquaintances revealed the tumultuous nature of Martin and Samantha's relationship. Several witnesses reported hearing frequent arguments and expressed concern about Martin's increasingly erratic behavior. A breakthrough came when detectives discovered Martin's hidden files detailing his investigation into Samantha's past. The evidence of blackmail added a new dimension to the case, suggesting that Samantha might have been acting in desperation rather than cold-blooded murder. Meanwhile, Samantha decided to turn herself in, as she couldn't live on the run anymore. The turning point in the investigation came from an unexpected source. Ethan Grant, racked with guilt over his role in the events, came forward with crucial information. He provided investigators with text messages and voicemails from Samantha, documenting Martin's escalating behavior and her growing fear. Ethan's testimony painted a picture of Samantha as a victim of manipulation and abuse, trapped in a gilded cage by Martin's wealth and threats. Ethan explained how Samantha had confided in him about Martin's possessive nature, his increasing paranoia, and the constant surveillance she was under. He recounted how Samantha had felt isolated and scared, her once vibrant spirit crushed under the weight of Martin's control. This new perspective prompted Detective Blackwell to dig deeper into Martin's past, uncovering a pattern of obsessive behavior and allegations of stalking from his previous relationships. Forensic evidence from the crime scene began to corroborate Samantha's version of events. The angle of Martin's fatal injury was consistent with an accidental fall, and defensive wounds on his hands suggested he had been the aggressor in the final confrontation. Perhaps the most damning evidence came from Martin's own digital footprint. A thorough examination of his computers revealed the full extent of his surveillance of Samantha, including GPS tracking data and recordings from hidden cameras in their home. The level of invasion and control shocked even the most seasoned investigators. As the true nature of Martin and Samantha's relationship came to light, public opinion began to shift. The narrative of the gold-digging young woman gave way to a more nuanced understanding of a young woman trapped in an abusive situation. Initially charged with second-degree murder, Samantha's case took an unexpected turn as evidence of Martin's manipulation and abuse mounted. The district attorney's office faced increasing pressure to reconsider the charges. After lengthy deliberations and negotiations with Samantha's defense team, the charges were reduced to manslaughter. As the trial date approached, the media frenzy intensified, with reporters camped outside the courthouse and daily updates on the proceedings. The courtroom was packed with spectators, journalists, and supporters of both Martin and Samantha, all eager to hear the details of the case that had captivated the nation. During the trial, Samantha's defense attorney, Laura Hastings, meticulously laid out the evidence of Martin's controlling and abusive behavior. She presented the recordings, surveillance data, and testimony from Ethan and other witnesses who had seen the changes in Samantha since she met Martin. Hastings argued that Samantha had acted in self-defense, driven to desperation by Martin's relentless manipulation and threats. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Michael Barrett, painted a different picture. They argued that Samantha had willingly entered into a relationship with Martin for financial gain and had ultimately resorted to violence when she saw an opportunity to be free of him. They pointed to the lavish lifestyle she had enjoyed and the benefits she had reaped from her association with Martin. After weeks of testimony and 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned their verdict. Samantha was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, a verdict that acknowledged her role in Martin's death, while also recognizing the extenuating circumstances that led to the fatal confrontation. The judge, taking into account Samantha's lack of prior criminal record and the unusual circumstances of the case, sentenced her to 5 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 3 years. The sentence was met with mixed reactions, some feeling it was too lenient, others arguing that Samantha had already suffered enough.